They're here. The Wyatt Sicks officially made their debut on this week's edition of Monday Night Raw, a very noteworthy debut and probably one of the more memorable finishes to a Raw I can remember in a long time, just from a visual standpoint. And the honest truth about this entire thing with this group making their return, it's been, a couple months they've really been teasing this with the QR codes, and we knew this was coming. They had pretty much pushed it that way last week. SmackDown, Clash of the Castle, all that. We knew this was kind of the timeline. If you looked at some of the QR codes and all that, we knew this was the countdown. It was getting to this point. This was when the big angle was going to happen. And I think, again, to me, the truth about this thing is that it's really going to all be about the presentation and how they decide to present this group moving forward. It's one thing to do it this way, where you have just this creepy, sort of shocking way to debut them, where you lay out the entire, sort of near backstage area that's closest to the ring, the gorilla position, and all that. Everyone around there has been taken out, right? And you're led to believe that this was done, as the match was finishing up, Jey Uso celebrating after qualifying for Money in the Bank. And all of this has happened. All this carnage and chaos has happened. And you can, once again, this is professional wrestling. You have to be able to leave some of the realism aside, understanding that this is a completely different thing. And the truth is, how they go about presenting this group is going to be everything, because we saw some of the visuals already, right? I mean, this one with Chad Gable, where you have him laid out back there. And of course, there were other people laid out too. Braun Strowman was laid out. Bronson Reed even went to social media to say, hey, are all my guys, taken out? Are they dead for the Money in the Bank three-way next week? Do I automatically qualify for the Money in the Bank? Maybe kind of poking fun at it a little bit, which perhaps the Wyatt Sicks go after him at some point for poking fun at this. But it's a fair question, given the fact that Strowman was laid out, Gable was laid out. But I saw someone point out on social media, when it comes to, this particular visual here, where you have Uncle Howdy making his walk towards the ring. You've got Chad Gable laying there, and he's been taken out. Why Chad Gable, right? Gable's been pumping himself up for this Money in the Bank qualifier. He's had the split with the Alpha Academy now, and now he's thrown into this, right? And someone pointed out, because really, when you look at the way this group has come together and the story that they're going to try to tell, which again, this ties into the presentation and how they do it, is that they are breaking all these people, they're bringing all these people in who have lost their family, right? And what has Gable been doing? He's pushed his family away, his Alpha Academy family. He's been, abusing them. He's been doing all these things. And I thought that was kind of a, popular narrative that gained some traction on social media. And really, that's a good point. And I think that's where this whole thing is going to either succeed or fail when we talk about this. You guys know, I did the video I did on the Bray Wyatt documentary and talking about, some of the things they brought up in there were the challenges of presenting this type of character in the world of WWE. There's always been challenges. You can go back to lots of different characters over the years, right? Whether it's, more tame type characters like Papa Shango or the Boogeyman or people like that, right? These are just obvious different examples. The Undertaker is the most extreme example, but there was a difference with The Undertaker in terms of, again, how he's presented, unlike anyone else. But when you talk about kind of this particular faction and this character now moving forward, Uncle Howdy, and leading this group into this new world here, it is going to be about how do they present them on a week-to-week basis, and how do they then translate that to the stories that they tell in the ring? Because at some point, you have to make this about what happens in the ring, right? Because it is, kind of two different worlds here that we're playing with. And it's always been the case, especially with the Fiend character, I think, with Bray Wyatt, is that you're playing with two different universes here, and they're having to play within the same sort of sandbox, right? And, while everyone else is pumping up, trying to win Money in the Bank to become the world champion, you have a drastic difference in something like this to end the show. And now we see, how does WWE execute this moving forward? Because that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how good this was. I thought this was great. Like, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was, again, to me, the one camera shot, the way that they have been leaning in on these for lots of different things recently, the overhaul and presentation, I thought it was tremendous how they shot this thing. You had kind of the eerie music playing over it. I thought that was a perfect touch because it added to, again, the theme and the presentation that you're trying to sell to everyone. And I thought that was just a tremendous touch. And to see, the carnage that was there, have Uncle Howdy make his way out, everyone joins together. Like, the way they executed this, I thought was great. It's not going to be for everyone. Just the same way the Bray Wyatt character, the Fiend character was not for everyone. This isn't going to be for everyone. And I think that's where the challenges come in, and that's where we see what can Triple H do with a group like this, and how can he be able to take this group, keep them within this world to where he has presented a more old school professional wrestling type product, still with a lot of sports entertainment type themes. But how does he now take this group and factor them in and make it feel like it is something that connects? And I think that's where the storytelling is going to be it here. Like, again, that is the honest truth here. They have to be able to tell the stories, and then how do you present them in the ring? I know I've already seen people talk about, the lights, we had the red light with the Fiend, all this other stuff. How do you present this group? And I think that's where we start to ask those questions moving forward. But that's the good thing, is that you end Raw on a cliffhanger. You have a lot of questions to ask now moving forward. What's Chad Gable going to do? Gable's laid out back there. Again, Strowman's been laid out. Other people are laid out all over the place. Jey Uso, who I think you may have expected to maybe be connected to this on night one, was not connected to this, but I thought it made sense that they would come out, the Fireflies, the connection there. But they did if you guys saw it, they did the post-match interview, right? And I think it was Kathy Kelly that they did a WWE Digital exclusive with Jey Uso, and kind of pushing, hey, we got to get out of here. And Jay saying he wanted nothing to do with this group. So, you feel like they're tying in a lot of that stuff already. And like I said, you've got kind of the stuff with Gable that's there. They can tell a story there. There's a lot of other things. And I mean, Strowman is interesting, right? Because Strowman was part of the Wyatt family at one point. So there's a lot of these different things that they're already putting in front of us to make us really dive into the story a little bit deeper. And I think that is important here, to see where we go from here. And so is this going to be a group that makes its way, as the featured act week in and week out? Is this just going to be a group that's kind of, sort of a rogue group that shows up every now and then? There's a lot of questions, but I think that's a good thing. I think if we're asking questions, that means we're at least somewhat interested. Some people may not be interested in this. They may say, this is not for me. I want the wrestling. I want a 15-minute match here that goes through 3 commercial breaks and all this other stuff. And that's fine, because you've got plenty of that, on this particular episode of Raw, when you had the different matches, whether it's, Breaker and Sheamus trying to compete to get a shot at Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship, how much it means to both of those guys to try to become champion. Or you've got the qualifiers themselves. Jay wants to be able, to become a world champion. All this other stuff, those are completely different storytelling venues that you're working with there than this one. So I will say this piqued my interest. I thought the execution of it was very well done. I love the continuous camera shot. I love the music. Just kind of the creepiness of it, everything, because we've not seen something like that in a long time in WWE. If ever, we just have everyone just completely laid out in the backstage area at the gorilla position, and you've got different people that you can already connect to this group. I think that was the most important aspect on night one. And you will get just, I think people, because it is, kind of that, whatever the law is of, you see one thing and then see something completely different now. And so it at least catches your attention, and you're going to want to see where they go with it from here. But I don't think, just as we sometimes do a lot, I don't think we can just rush to say this isn't going to work, or that, hey, this is, whatever, part 2 of something that didn't work. We just have to see how it plays out. And I will tell you, I'm much more confident in doing the let's see it play out in the Triple H era than I was in the previous regime and what it had gotten to at that point. Because, we could certainly count all the missteps that the WWE had with the Fiend character and other things like that. But I think I'm willing to give Triple H the benefit of the doubt here that they've got a plan. It did take a while for them to make their debut, but now that they have, they are strikingly different from everything else on screen. And now that becomes the challenge. How do you tie it into everything else you're presenting on Raw moving forward? And like we said, too, don't forget, Raw's moving to Netflix coming up, early next year. So how do they tie that in? There's a lot of things they can do there. We'll find out. There's a lot more to come with this group. There's no question. But I'm curious to know what you guys thought of the Wyatt Sicks making their debut here on Raw in stunning fashion. And again, like I said, one of the more pretty glaring presentation type segments you'll see on WWE television, period, with the way they shot this thing and the continuous camera angle and everything, doing, having the walk of Uncle Howdy through everyone that had been taken out. I thought that was a nice touch. But there's a lot of fun, I think, that can be had with this group. It is just going to continue to be. How does it play out from here, and can they balance that and maybe correct some of the missteps that were there with the Fiend character. And now we see what Uncle Howdy / Taylor Rotunda / Bo Dallas can do with this new group, and see how they blend in to the rest of the WWE universe. So you guys let me know what you think about the return of Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Sicks and how they factor into things moving forward. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on your way out, and let me know your thoughts on the Wyatt Sicks.